Here's three price scenarios that I have on my mind that I'm exploring when it comes to Moonriver's native token called MOVR in an event where, let's say, maybe there is a fully fledged type of altcoin season during this cycle. However, even though nothing I say is financial advice, the first one I want to talk about is maybe the idea of $130 when it comes to MOVR. Now that is around a 21.5x from here, and market cap at that point, considering current circulating supply, would be around 1.3 billion. Now, why wouldn't this necessarily surprise me? It's because I do like the fundamentals of Moonriver, and let me explain why. Moonriver, quite essentially, is an Ethereum-compatible blockchain environment on the Kusama network. Now, if we take a look at Kusama, it's a canary network to Polkadot, and I think this is going to make sense later because if we take a look at Moonriver, in its kind of most simple form, the way I take a look at it is that it's basically a canary network to Moonbeam. Now again, Moonbeam is on Polkadot, so I think what I said just now makes like a little bit more sense, right? Again, Kusama, Moonriver is on there, and then Kusama is a canary network to Polkadot, and then a project that is on Polkadot called Moonbeam. Again, Moonriver is a canary network to that, right? To Moonbeam again. So I think this all just kind of is pretty cool. However, let me explain real quick what Moonriver is and why playing the role of a canary network could actually be somewhat pretty cool. It's because if we just want to take a look at a broader example, let's say we take a look at Kusama and Polkadot, right? Kusama being a canary network to that, basically, usually projects, right, that wish to launch on Polkadot, they'll typically start off with Kusama, and then later after it's been tested, so to speak, later it moves on to something like Polkadot. Now, it's not a requirement, though, because as we can see, something like Moonriver is on Kusama, but then it's just kind of like a good entry point, I would say, because it's typically cheaper, allegedly, to rent building space on Kusama when compared to Polkadot. And then it's supposedly easier to make changes on as well, again, Kusama, when compared to Polkadot. So then, basically, Moonriver is like that, but then to Moonbeam. Now, why is Moonbeam pretty cool? Because Moonbeam offers, quite essentially, the power of Polkadot, while at the same time maintaining the ease of use of Ethereum, and as we all know, Ethereum, very popular, right? I mean, Polkadot is also pretty popular, not as popular as that, though, but then, again, that is just kind of the whole project's vibe. So I kind of like it. Now, ultimately, in the grand scheme of things, I think a lot of the popularity when it comes to Moonriver is going to probably be dependent on Moonbeam because, again, it is a canary network to that. And then I think a lot of Moonbeam's probably, kind of attention, I think, is going to rely a lot also maybe on something like Polkadot. So then if I believe in Polkadot, I also would, in a sense, kind of just the way I take a look at it, not speak on anyone's behalf, I would also believe in something like Moonbeam. And then if I believe in Moonbeam, why wouldn't I believe in its canary network? That's the way you take a look at it. It's like, for instance, if I believe in Polkadot, why wouldn't I believe in its canary network called Kusama, which Moonriver is on? So then, again, the way you take a look at it is that if I believe in Polkadot, I'm somewhat kind of believing at 4 projects, actually. Because, again, Polkadot, Kusama, Moonriver is on Kusama, then Moonbeam is on Polkadot. So then, that's just my point of view, but I do like the fundamentals of Moonriver, and MOVR maybe, let's say, at the idea of $130 wouldn't necessarily surprise me. During, let's say, maybe a moment there is a fully fledged type of altcoin season during this cycle. Now, the second scenario I want to take a look at is maybe the idea of $140. Around a 23x from here, and market cap at that point, considering current circulating supply, would be around 1.4 billion. I mean, to me, it doesn't seem like that, I think, ridiculous in the grand scheme of things. Shiba, at one point reached around $40 billion in market cap, and that was even back in 2021. So I'm not necessarily saying that, this is going to be even achieving, like, half of that, right? This is, so minuscule in the grand scheme of things. Now, this is all just in my mind. Only time will tell, but that wouldn't surprise me again. Maybe the idea of $140 and a market cap at that point, considering current circulating supply around 1.4 billion. However, I do want to talk about the final price scenario, which is maybe the idea of $150, a 25x from here, and market cap at that point, considering current circulating supply, would be approximately 1.5 billion. The reason why this wouldn't necessarily surprise me is because I take a look at the Ethereum ETF. I take a look at how supposedly there's over 600 million crypto owners currently. I also take a look at the Bitcoin ETF. And what I find also even more fascinating is that in the peak of the 2021 bull run, there was around 300 million crypto owners. So now we basically have way more, pretty much double, right? And when I consider all that, if let's say there is a fully fledged type of altcoin season, maybe the idea of $150 wouldn't necessarily surprise me when it comes to MOVR, but sometimes when I say this, people like to say, okay, what timeline am I looking at? Now, when it comes to the precise timeline, I mean, I don't think it's possible for me to know that. However, for me, at least I can take a look in the past. This is the way to take a look at it and maybe learn some clues from there, right? Because historically speaking, usually altcoins, as a worst case scenario, they typically peak around a year and a half after a Bitcoin halving event. So a year and a half from the last Bitcoin halving event, which happened in April of 2024, would mean October of this year in 2025. It doesn't necessarily mean that's going to be the exact moment because it could be different, right? I mean, who knows? It may even extend all the way until Q1 of 2026. Only time will tell. But whenever that timeline is, I just want to stay patient by just holding and dollar cost averaging, and that's about it. And feel free to subscribe if you enjoyed this video. Greatly appreciate it. It's Mali the Captain, and I'll catch y'all on the next one. I'm out. Peace. Bye.